Good morning, everyone, and happy sort of snow day. Boy, it was a tough call to cancel today, and I'll tell you what ended up making the decision. We were out on the roads this morning about 5 a.m., and the question became, what's the wise thing to do? What's the wise thing to do in light of past experience, current reality, future hopes and dreams? And just became clear that the wise thing to do is to cancel out of an abundance of caution, because we want to communicate that we really do care more about us as people than we do us all gathering in the building, though it's so important that we're together. And it was a really tough call, and maybe by the time you're watching this, it'll be not the right call, but at 5 o'clock this morning seemed like the right thing to do. So I am actually excited about this opportunity because I have a lot more to say in our Unity series than I have time to say on Sundays. So I want to give you 4 things that I would love to say to you if there had been more time, and now there's more time. So here we go. Number 1. Unity, racial unity in particular. Number 1, why is this still an issue? Shouldn't we be beyond this now? No, we should not be beyond this now. I don't think we will ever get beyond needing to work towards unity, and specifically racial unity as a question. I don't think we will ever get beyond it, and here's why. In John 10:10, the Gospel of John, John 10:10, Jesus said this: the thief, speaking of the devil, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy, but I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. And what we can know is that Satan is going to be attacking everything that is precious to Jesus and the people he loves. He is going to try to steal and kill and destroy where Jesus is creating life. And we know that one of the things Jesus came to do was to bring people together, to create unity. I think this is the passage I shared in my email a week or two ago, Ephesians chapter 2, verses 14. The Apostle Paul, writing about what Jesus accomplished on the cross, he writes, "For he himself is our peace, who has made the two groups one and has destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility, by setting aside in his flesh the law with its commands and regulations." Okay, that's a lot so far, but big picture. Jesus is our peace, who has made the two groups one. The two groups were Jews and non-Jews. And this is a religious and ethnic, and we would today say racial distinctions. He goes on to say, by setting aside in his flesh the law with its commands and regulations, his purpose was to create one new humanity out of the two, thus making peace, and in one body to reconcile both of them to God through the cross, by which he put to death their hostility. Jesus is the one who put to death the hostility that inevitably comes up between peoples who are different. This is not new with America. This is tale as old as time. There has been division, and Jesus came to bring people together in unity. And like all things in the Christian life, this exists in the already not yet paradigm. If you're not familiar with that paradigm, let me just explain it to you real quick. Everything that Jesus accomplished for us on the cross is already happening. It's already at work. People are being healed and delivered. People are coming together. Unity is happening. Deliverance and forgiveness, all of that is happening already. And it's not yet fulfilled. It's not yet in its fullness. Until Jesus returns, we will not have the fullness of restoration and unity and reconciliation and the healing of our bodies and the restoring of our relationships. We live in a time of tension, but it's important to know in Ephesians 2, Paul is not just talking about different religions. He is talking about race and ethnicity. One of the predominant New Testament scholars in our generation, in our current generation, is a man named N.T. Wright. And N.T. Wright has this to say about this passage in Ephesians. He says, if our churches are still divided in any way along racial or cultural lines, Paul would say that our gospel, our very grasp of the meaning of Jesus' death, is called into question. How long will it be before those who claim to follow Jesus, not least those who claim also to love Paul's thinking, come to terms with the demands he actually makes? I love that. It is so clear. Jesus came to bring people together. Satan will always be fighting against what Jesus wants to do. And so, of course, we will never be finished working towards racial unity. Never. It's no surprise. So, that was number one. I got 4 of these. And as a little pause real quick, I'm sitting in my backyard here in Kempsville in my little gazebo, and I just thought it would be more fun to video from here than in the house. So anyway, it occurred to me, like, where am I? I'm in my backyard. Okay. Number 2. Okay, if we're still going to have this struggle, and this comes up from time to time, who's to blame? Who's to blame for the fact that we still have to worry about racial unity in the U.S. in 2026? First thing I want to say about the question, who's to blame? Number 1, I don't want to. We don't want to fix the blame. We want to fix the problem. We do not want to be people who fix the blame. We want to fix the problem. We all of us, whatever your skin color, whatever your race or ethnicity, we all inherited in our generation a broken system. We inherited a broken system. It's not your fault. It's just what we have inherited. And a part of that system that is so broken wants to make us feel shame about our race or our ethnicity. And those are, I know that those are separate terms. We're going to use them interchangeably for convenience sake. If you want to dialogue more about race and ethnicity, I'm happy to do that. I know the differences, but for our sake today, let's just say race. In our broken system, all of us are pushed to feel shame about our racial identity. And so it might be that you are a Hispanic teenager and somebody's making you feel shame about being a Hispanic. It could be you're an African American woman. It could be you're a middle-aged white guy like me. None of us should feel shame about our racial identity. Now, here's what's different about the gospel. I couldn't stand up in our broader culture and say, I'm proud to be a middle-aged white guy. But in Jesus, I can, because that's the racial identity I have. And you can be proud of the racial identity you have. I can think of my friend Tavo, who's Puerto Rican, saying, he is proud to be Puerto Rican, and I love that, right? Or my friend Kamani saying she's proud to be Jamaican, and I love that. And it's okay for me to say, I'm proud to be a white guy. Why? Because my primary identity is in Jesus. Jesus came to bring us together, and our racial identity doesn't earn any of us anything. It doesn't earn us anything. My primary characteristic, my primary identity is in Jesus, and I have a racial identity, and so do you. We all do. And when we lean into this idea and we lift everyone up and we celebrate everyone, then we will be able to come together. I wrote here, the question is not who is to blame. The question is, will you use whatever God has given you to be a part of the solution? Will you use whatever he's given you to be a part of the solution? So brass tacks, I was having a conversation this week, and a gentleman said, well, hey, Eric, if we can celebrate, and I was sort of saying this to him, and he said, if we're celebrating all of our races, why at the Unity Block Party are we doing Filipino food and Mexican food and Jamaican food? Why aren't we doing any food from a traditionally white culture? And I said, because that's what we do most of the time, and we had a finite menu. We have a finite menu. So it's not that one's better than the other, right? We're not getting Nicaraguan food or Chinese food. We're not having Italian food. We're not having food from Chicago. I saw those hot dogs during the Bears game the other day and it made me want a Chicago hot dog. I went to college in Chicago. Right? Yeah, we're leaving a lot out because we have a finite menu. And it is true that in our church, we are predominantly a white church. So that is the culture that tends to be most present. So we want to lift up other cultures because they're better? No, because we want to lift all of us up. And so that's we're not about who's to blame. We are about what can you do, what can I do to use what I have to make a difference. Why? Because we are all a part of a system that has historically disenfranchised or oppressed people of color in our country, because that is what the evil one wants to do, and we have to work against that. I was thinking about the spiritual implications here, and how do we spiritually and biblically and theologically get past the who is to blame question and focus on not who's to blame, but how can we be a part of the solution. And I've been thinking about this for a while, and I'm so glad to have the chance to talk about it with you today. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, I think is a key verse for thinking about our work in racial unity. Ephesians 6:12, the Apostle Paul says this: "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood." Our struggle is not against flesh and blood. Well, who's it against? It's against the rulers, the authorities, the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. There are rulers, powers, authorities, spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly realms that are working against all people all the time. And so what was one of Satan's best ideas to divide people and to harm the people created in God's image? It was the institution of slavery. We would all agree upon that. Slavery was demonic oppression of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people over hundreds of years. It was a demonic oppression. And people, many of them in Jesus' name, worked to end the institution of slavery. But do we think that the powers and the principalities and the authorities of darkness just said, oh man, that's over, I guess we'll have to come up with something new? Of course not. If they can't divide us through slavery, then they're like, hey, how about Jim Crow laws to oppress people of color? How about redlining to oppress people of color? Anything Satan can do to divide, anything he can do to oppress, anything he can do. And so, of course, we're going to have to keep working on this. We have an enemy. This is why we have to talk about racial unity. Some people have said to me, Eric, why can't we just talk about unity? Why can't we just talk about unity? Why do we have to talk about racial unity? We have to talk about racial unity because there has been racial oppression in our country. Because the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And so he's going to keep trying to divide us and keep trying to divide us and keep trying to divide us. And we are going to have to push it back. Not because you're bad. Not because I'm bad. Not because you did anything wrong. But because it's the world we inherited and we have a spiritual enemy. And this is a spiritual battle. And what was the beginning of the verse? Our battle is not against flesh and blood. And so what does Satan want to do? He wants to make the battle flesh and blood. He wants to make it white, black, Hispanic, Jamaican, Asian, Chinese, Japanese, whatever your race, your ethnicity, Puerto Rican, Nicaraguan. He wants to make us divided in our races. And Jesus comes along and says, no. I came to make you one. Not to get rid of those racial identities, but to elevate the beauty of culture and to celebrate it, not to force blame, but to bring us together. Now, maybe as you're listening to this, you might say, Eric, okay, but aren't things really better in 2026? And maybe in your world, you just don't encounter the racial division that I'm talking about. It's just not a part of your life. It's not a part of your life experience. especially if you're a white person, I want to recommend someone to you that you might not have heard of. His name is Dr. Esau McCaulley. Dr. Esau McCaulley. Dr. Esau McCaulley is a professor at Wheaton College, my alma mater. So great guy. He is an evangelical Christian who loves Jesus and the Bible. He is a brilliant scholar. He is a phenomenal cultural critic. Esau McCaulley, he has a podcast cleverly called the Esau McCaulley Podcast. He's written many books. He's a frequent contributor on the Holy Post, Holy Post Media, Holy Post Podcast. I just would recommend Esau to you. If you're a person who says, I don't understand why there's still an issue. Why are we still talking about this? I think that Esau articulates very, very well what is happening in our world and has a great perspective on things. And if you're just looking for some hope or some encouragement from the gospel, I would highly recommend Esau McCaulley to you. So that's the one. That's the second one. Who's to blame? Not you, not me. The system that we've inherited and our spiritual enemy who wants to divide us. Okay. Number three. What did I mean when I said a couple weeks ago that as Christians, we have the answer that can move us forward as a nation? It was another question I got, and I realized that I didn't say why as Christians I think we have a unique thing to say about unity. What do we have available to us as followers of Jesus that I think makes all the difference in this work towards unity, towards racial unity? Well, the first thing is that as followers of Jesus, the foundation of our faith is that we need to be forgiven. We believe that we need a Savior. And Jesus says that the person who's been forgiven much is the one who loves much. It's the depth of our understanding of our need for forgiveness that actually causes us to be people who love more. And just as Jesus humbled himself and became obedient to death, even death on a cross, he invites us to live out his humility. And it's the humility of Jesus. It's the humility of Jesus that I think can be our edge as followers of Jesus as we do this work towards racial unity. Philippians chapter 2, this beautiful declaration of what it means to live together in Christ. I'm gonna give it to you from memory, so I might butcher it a little bit. He says, therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any tenderness or compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and purpose, and humble yourself, just as Jesus humbled himself and became obedient to the cross. Humble yourself just as Jesus humbled himself. Here, I got it here. Let's see. I didn't get it quite right. He says in the 2011 NIV, rather in humility, value others above yourself. There we go. In humility, value others above yourself, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Jesus. In humility, value others above yourself. Not looking to your own interests, but to the interests of others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Jesus. Have the same mindset as Jesus. What does this mean? It means that just as Jesus humbled himself, we can humble ourselves and listen and learn. And we don't have to defend or justify, but we can listen to and trust in Jesus. I think about Matthew 20 when Jesus is walking with his disciples and James and John come up to Jesus and they say, "Hey Jesus, we got something for you." Hey, and he's like, "Well, what do you got?" He said, "Well, we were wondering if when you take over in your kingdom, could we be number one and number two in your kingdom? We want to just like, you're number one, Jesus, but can we be like your number one and your number two, like your right and your left hand guys?" And Jesus calls all the disciples together, and the other disciples had heard about this from James and John, and they're just like, "What's going on?" And Jesus says, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and they're great ones exercise authority over them." Jesus says, "It shall not be so with you. But with you, the greatest will be the servant. The greatest will be the servant. Whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Let's be people who join Jesus in laying down our lives for one another. It's the advantage we have as we work towards racial unity. Last thing. I want to say, if you're a part of our church, thank you. Because what we're trying to do is hard. It's hard. I don't know if it seems hard to you, but it is. And let me tell you why. We are trying to create a church that unchurched people would love to attend, and a church where we are all engaged in this process of becoming like Jesus for the sake of others. And that includes an emotionally healthy, contemplative spirituality. That means prioritizing silence and stillness, rich reflection on the scriptures, vulnerability in relationship, laying our lives down for one another. And we want to be known for what we're for. And we want to be known for being for racial unity. And that's hard. That's hard. That cocktail, thinking about unchurched people, like genuinely caring about unchurched people, not just hoping that they come, but like caring, loving unchurched people, wanting to push deep, not settling for surface or intellectual Christianity, but deep life change, like actually being transformed into the image of Jesus, to become like Jesus for the sake of others. Vulnerability, honesty, and racial unity. Come on. We're just making it as difficult as we can. So if you're in, thank you. Thanks for being in. I was talking with Bishop McBath last week in between one of the services, and I was asking him, as he works with mostly, not all, but mostly black pastors, and I was asking him, hey, when you're working with pastors in the black church, do they know that there are churches like ours who want to be engaged and are working in this work towards racial unity? And he said, no, not really. They don't really know. I was like, oh man, that's a bummer. And he said, well, Eric, tell me about who do you know? Like, who are the other like white pastors that you're friends with who are working towards racial unity, like intentionally, like you guys are here at Grace? And I thought about it for a minute, and I could think of two guys in particular. One of them actually has moved recently, who are like front and center, like making a bold statement, like we are for racial unity. And he said, Eric, if you can only think of one or two, how do you think African American pastors are going to know what's going on? So we got to keep at this, y'all. It's worth it. Satan wants to divide us. He wants to divide our church. He wants to divide our country. He wants to steal, kill, and destroy, and he will use whatever means possible. Thank you for creating environments that are not about us, not about our preferences, not about just making us feel better, but being willing to lean in and do the hard work. If you listen to this far into this video, thank you for doing that. And hey, I'm going to send out an email tomorrow like I always do. I'm going to put in the email a link where you can ask questions. If you have any questions about racial unity, I'm happy to dialogue about this. I'm happy to be wrong in something I said today. Maybe I wasn't clear. Giraffe on roller skates, that's me. Giraffe on roller skates, but I'm going to keep at it, and clumsy as it may be, we can't give up on this work. And I hope that you are safe today and warm and dry, and look forward to being with you next Sunday.